And we decided that it was just too risky for us to jump into the deep end of the pool and do basically two things at the same time, to move the code into another repository while at the same time changing our build scripts and our build setup. So we, with a heavy heart, we decided to build our own build system, not because we wanted to, but because we felt it was the safest way forward. So that's written in Python, and we have we'll see if we'll continue to develop that and support it, or if we will just drop it for one of the alternatives. So, or maybe we'll just be very happy with it and open source it and join the party, I don't know. This leads us into the next thing that we want to create, which are the deployment targets. So, like I said earlier, we deploy like always by hand, and it's just all the logic is on our computer. That's only for the cloud. So we also have this server built that we have to test in a different way, and then we have to release them in a different way, because we're not just deploying them, we're actually releasing them on the Atlassian marketplace with some release notes and metadata and so on. And then we also have a mobile app that we have to release to the App Store. And our dream is that we will just define all those different deployments or releases as deployment targets. And so all the modules in our monorepo will configure for themselves which targets they want to deploy to, and they will provide like some artifact. And then our build system will just take that artifact, and in front of each deployment target we will have an agent running that is accessible on a REST interface, and we will call that REST interface with a list of the artifacts that we want to deploy there or release. And this will all just happen automatically. Yeah, we've looked into a few systems like this also, but there are always some small differences in the setups. There are always something specific to your setup, and it's there's always this cost-benefit analysis of, do we build our own thing, or do we just migrate our code and setup to some third-party tool that we can adopt. And then I guess there's always the not invented here syndrome. But we decided to create our own project for those agents, deployment agents. That's a project that we call the Conductor. This is something that we have already started, and once we finish the monorepo, we will go full throttle into this. And this is the idea here, is that each of the deployment target is like the conductor will conduct and control the deployment target. So it will be his symphony. And for the cloud, here comes in, I'll come back to the resources that I talked about earlier. So when we add a new service or we add a new resource to an existing service, then the dream is that the conductor just picks up on that and will automatically spin up a new database, or create a new queue, or create a new instance of Redis, and it will manage all the configuration and secrets, put them into the Kubernetes cluster and into Vault or wherever else we would like to store them. And then the project is basically a framework where we will fill in with logic that is tailored for each deployment target. So of course, deploying to a Kubernetes cluster is very different from releasing on the Atlassian marketplace. And each conductor will have its own logic and know how to handle the different artifacts. I could go on and on, but I will not bore you any further. So please shoot if there are any questions. The pizza is not here, so we have some time. So yes. All right, so everybody excited for GopherCon? Mm-hmm. We are actually working towards it. We are have been for the past few weeks. We've been migrating slowly, and now we are taking the big repositories and moving them. So it's happening. There have been some blockers, but we foresaw most of them. The important part for us was, of course, that was to optimize the build. So because we have a lot of packages and modules, then we did not want to build everything for every push to Bitbucket. So we have the dependencies explicitly between the modules. So if you push something to like a base Docker image, and it will trickle down and rebuild all the other images that depend on that. There's a lot of effort that went into that. And then we also created this thing that we call the artifact registry. So each module can build an artifact, and it can. So in the build, it defines defines the ID or name of the artifact that was just being built. And many of the build systems like Bazel and Pants that I looked into, I think they use their own cache or their own repository for all those artifacts. So if you have a Docker image, they actually dump it into a file and upload it to their own. So they're not using the Docker Hub or a Docker registry. But like I said, we wanted to just take one step at a time. So we are continue using the Docker registry and Maven for our OBRs and jars and so on. So this artifact registry is something that we built actually on top of Git nodes. And so for every commit, we add a node that has a listing of all the modules, and so we update the artifacts that have changed for this module. And this gives us the possibility to just look up the artifacts at the end of the build when you want to deploy, and see which artifacts have been deployed. And also, if we go back in time, we can look up and see which artifacts are relevant for that commit if we need to roll back or something like that. Yeah, so like I said, we only we do not want to build everything. So yeah, we just take the diff. So we just so we have we created 3 different builds on. We have Bitbucket Server and Bamboo. So 3 different builds in Bamboo. One that runs on every push, and one that runs for every push after you created a pull request, and then a nightly build. And so the on push is something that just runs supposed to just run the unit tests for all the modules, and the on pull request is more extensive integration testing. It's kind of this virtual reviewer, we call it. So yeah, so it's we look up when was the last time that we created a listing in the artifact registry for which commit, and then we take the diff from head and until that, or from that time, and just apply it to what has changed. Yeah, so the question is, would we have done anything differently with the information that we have today? I think, I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, but this jump into microservices was maybe a bit too much built on hype. But yeah, I think we would definitely go into microservices, but that might have been a thing that we would have done later. But we're very happy with Kubernetes and Docker, of course. There's of course a lot of things that we want to improve, just like for every project. It's of course costly to develop all those in-house tools, but I'm not sure that, like, given, like, if we were starting today, we would probably have something to choose from rather than building our own. And I'm looking forward to the talk by Jeremy about the service registry. Well, yeah. That sounds like something that we could have used, but I think in the big picture now, we would probably have just done everything very similar to how we ended up doing things. Oh yes. So question is if we're using Kubernetes locally or only in the cloud. So I probably forgot to mention that we use Docker Compose when you're running locally. That was something like the local development came way before we went into Kubernetes, and Docker Compose was there for us. So we went with that, and we haven't changed that. We've made some research into Minikube. That hasn't gone very far, but I think that in the future, once we have all this fancy, all those fancy deployment targets and the automated deployments, then we will probably want to take the step just to run the world for each developer in the cloud. And so, yeah, part of the vision for the future is that instead of having multiple development clusters, then we would just have one development cluster that would have like there's namespaces for each developer, and so you would, instead of running Docker Compose locally, when you type tempo c start, you would just upload or just deploy what the newest thing or whatever you have been developing locally onto that cluster. And because the microservices take a lot of power to run when they are this many, and will free up a lot of resources for developers. Sorry, oh yeah, so when we run our test on our continuous integration, that's we always deploy to the staging area or some other area to run the integration tests. Yes. All right. All right. Thank you. Woohoo! Saved by Domino's.